Hi, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I want to share something about an important proposal that was set forth on July 12th by the Department of Education, and it's concerning rewriting Title IX. So I'm sure if you're in school, you've heard about Title IX because it was a landmark decision or law to protect women primarily, but it's a sex discrimination law that went into effect in 1972. And it's been really helpful to the protection and support of women for the last 50 years. So the rewriting of this law would create a new category of sex discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity. And the new rules would dramatically expand the scope of Title IX to include discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity, and declare that preventing a student from participating in any school activity consistent with their gender identity would be subjecting the student to harm on the basis of sex. It would also make upholding biological reality a form of sex-based harassment. So, however a person is born biologically, male or female, like actions like using a child's given name or biologically accurate pronouns instead of a preferred name and pronouns, would be regarded as sexual harassment. It would normalize gender identity ideology and harm children's health because the new regulations would promote gender identity ideology in our schools as a mandated policy, encouraging students to believe they can be born in the wrong body. And then students can, by the protection of the school, without parental notification, pursue chemical and surgical alterations that have irreversible life effects and consequences like sterility and long life sexual dysfunction, interrupting healthy growth and development, obviously, and other serious health risks, including cognitive problems, blood clots, and cardiovascular disease, and even cancer. And those facts are backed up by the CDC. It would create a head-on collision with parental rights. That's already happening in certain states. The new regulations would require K through 12 schools to support socially transitioning children to a different gender without requiring parental notification, the involvement of medical professionals, or legal documentation. These rules would increase calls to child protective services for parents who want to uphold biological reality in their children. And children are harmed when parents are disempowered to protect them and nurture them and help them with their decisions while they're a child. Requiring schools to open up their privacy facilities based on gender identity. So schools would be required to permit males who want to identify or who identify as males, as females, to use privacy facilities set aside for females and vice versa. And girls and women will have to surrender the right to privacy and be placed at increased risk for harassment or assault by males who are claiming to be females in their identity. And that has happened in different states too. Fraudulent cases of that and harm to women. This would jeopardize girls and women's athletic educational opportunities because instead of biological sex being the determiner, it would be women and girls can compete against males, biological males. It would threaten religious freedom and free speech because school districts would be forced to adopt policies that compel students and staff to refer to others as something other than their biological sex. And this violates students' and teachers' First Amendment rights to speak freely and treat others in a manner that is biologically accurate and consistent with their faith. It would turn Title IX coordinators into federal law enforcement officials. It would give them a sweeping authority to enforce these new mandates and decide whether they want to make a complaint against the school official or another student, even if the student doesn't want to. So parents, educators, and community leaders must take action against this. The only way that we can do that is to comment on the Federal Register. It's a public portal that the Department of Education has to read and respond to all of the concerns and comments made there. They're required to do that, and the goal is a high volume of comments to cause the United States Department of Education to reconsider this rewriting. This is what you should be putting on your public comment. It needs an RIN, which is a regulation identifier number, and that is docket ID : capital ED -2021 OCR 0166. You have to, for each area of concern, explain how this would specifically impact or pose specific threats to you, your family, your children, or your organization or its members. Use personal stories and or citations linked to relevant studies, articles, reports, examples, or other evidence. And pose questions for the United States Department of Education to answer, such as the economic impact this will have because of the proposed regulations. And like I said, you can go to the federalregister.gov and go to the non-discrimination on basis of sex in education programs or activities receiving federal. And there are a lot of other YouTube stations out there that are sharing really good information if you need a better link. And I got that information from the Parent and Children Protection site. So thank you for listening, and respond as you see fit.